So this is...
10:09.
Yes. This is an open meeting of the Berlin Historical Commission. We are being recorded and
Jeez, I hope
Videoed.
that wasn't recorded.
recorded and videoed.
I hope that wasn't recorded. Oh, well.
She
She doesn't.
She starts when we start,
Okay.
so you're okay. So Kristen, our town admin, Kristen, will be coming, and also Barry Ager, one of our members, will be attending. They're just a bit late, and present is Ellie
Ellie
Bergen and Lucy Ayers, Janet Woodward, and June Miller. Hi, Kristen. Here's Kristen. Okay, we just started because Barry is going to be a little late.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry, I'm late.
that's okay. You're really not. We just.
I already said that.
You're
They
the
beat
third
me to
person.
it.
You beat me to, I'm the third person to
Third
say
person to
that?
be late.
All right.
I was
Then I
just-
guess maybe none of us are late and we
Yeah.
can just all be
Yeah.
happy.
They just got here early. What can we say?
Yeah, we.
I like that.
Mm.
We're going to start with trying to recap some of our minutes. On the agenda, I put September 29th, but it was September 25th. It wasn't a business meeting, it was moving stuff from upstairs here to a container at Cordelia's farm. And so that's pretty much what I said, but I'll read it to you. The only thing I was concerned about was that because I didn't attend that day,
I thought I had sent you an email with everyone that was there. Because I
No.
was waiting for a name for your in-laws, or Nate's in-laws, actually.
Oh, yes.
But anyways, I thought I'd sent that to you,
No,
but I'll look again.
well, anyway, let's do it now.
Yeah.
Attendees moved town historical collection items from the town office's mechanical room to a container behind the Village Power Building on Pleasant Street for safekeeping. Many thanks to Cordelia's Farm for allowing the use of this container, and to volunteers for transporting and relocating the collection items. Respectfully, June Miller. And in the attendance portion, I said also attending Timothy Wheeler, Al Roseberry, Paul McKelkin, Paul Wheeler. And you're saying that Lorraine and Larry were there?
Mm-hmm.
And Eddie Bradley was there, and Ed Ayers was there.
Okay, Lorraine,
It's right, Lorraine, and I'll give you Larry. Poor Larry. We never call him by his last
Lawrence.
name.
oh,
No, I'll tell you. I'll call you
okay,
when I get home.
so I need,
I just want to.
I just need a last name, I guess. They have different last names.
Yeah.
So Lorraine, I know Lorraine's last name
No.
is
I never use his last name, so
not sure what it was.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'll know in a minute. It'll pop out of my mouth.
Okay,
Yeah.
and Ed Bradley,
but-
And
Mhm.
Ed Ayers.
okay. Okay, so we will add those. So I need a motion to accept the minutes with the additions
So
of the
moved.
volunteers. So moved, okay. So all those in favor?
Need a second.
A second.
Oh, Janet seconded?
second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, unanimously approved. Okay, we got that one done.
And that is nice, because when you miss something and you have to go back, it's like,
Okay,
except everybody got it.
all right. Now, the next, Lucy, you don't have minutes for October 11th and 23 yet,
No, I don't.
but you can, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So we will defer those for next time. The December 13th minutes that Barry did for you, Lucy, I have here,
Mm-hmm.
and he sent them to all of us. There were only two things that I noted that needed to be changed. In the the fourth paragraph, he wrote November 29th, but indeed it's the same day as the minutes we just read.
Mhm.
It's September 25.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to change that for him. And on the second page, he didn't know the last name of one of the CMRPC staff members who deals with historic preservation. Her name is Dutremble.
Oh, Dominique is her
Dominique,
first name.
yes. So we can add the Dutremble to Dominique, and I didn't see anything else. So if you're okay with those changes, we can approve Barry's minutes for December 13th.
I move to approve them with the changes noted.
Okay, and a second?
Second. Oh, go ahead.
Okay, and all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, unanimous. Okay. Okay, good, so we've got the minutes done. Okay, so the next thing is the Bullard House. The first item I had under the Bullard House was rescheduling what we missed on Wednesday, which was meeting with Rob Corey, who is from Wood Ox, and could be a prospective, could be a project manager for us. I have talked to him on the phone, and I did send him some documents. I think I told you what I sent him. I sent him existing conditions that Mogul did. I sent him the foundation plans that T.F. Moran did. And I sent him the as-built septic plan, so he could have some topographical information. I could have sent him more, but I thought that was enough because, you know, he's just,
Might as well just send them with the latest, the most recent.
yes.
Documents.
I guess those, well, certainly those are, the as-built is probably the most recent.
Mm-hmm.
Can he do it the same time this coming week?
Well, what, when I talked to him on the phone, when he had to cancel, he said that he might have Tuesday or Wednesday next week. So
I have something booked for Tuesday, but
you do, yeah, okay. Wednesday, Barry has quite a full schedule, which I'm gonna help him with. I don't wanna get ahead of myself, but he can work it in. If we want to, if it's good for all of you, we can work in Rob Corey Wednesday morning or at the latest 1 o'clock. So what do you wanna do?
I would do Wednesday. It doesn't matter to me what the time is.
Okay.
Wednesday afternoon for me.
Yeah, I guess he can't come any later than 1 because he's coming from quite a distance.
Well, 1 would be fine.
1 is okay. All right, then I will, I'll propose 1 o'clock next Wednesday and see if that flies. And I'll post it, and let you know. If it isn't gonna fly, I'll let you know that too.
What's the date on that Wednesday?
That's the,
14th? No.
let's see, the 12th is Sunday.
So the 15th.
So it's the 15th. And hopefully it'll be warmer. We managed to escape being in the Bullard House under frigid conditions.
I was going to bring a space heater to stick in.
Yeah, well,
That's why I thought it had been canceled initially. I thought, oh, it's got to be because it's so cold.
well, his children had a stomach bug.
Yeah, there's just too much going around.
So what is, the plan for him to be the project manager for the entire project?
There's no plan.
There's no
He's
plan.
interviewing us and we're interviewing him.
Okay.
And he was suggested by Katie Enright, who
I saw
is part
that.
of the HSH staff.
Mhm.
Because when Steve Tyler indicated that he couldn't really do that for us,
Right, they go to the inside.
then I, at the Zoom meeting, I said, is there anyone else you could recommend? And he said no, but Katie popped up and she said she would try.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yep, so, so that is a person that she found who would at least talk to us.
So I'm going to apologize here because I haven't read every single one of the many emails that have gone through. And just to bring you up to date, Kristen, it's like I'm finally, my daughter's finally passed,
Good.
you know, which is relief off my shoulders. Not completely, but, you know, she's on the mend. So that I can be part of this again. So HSH is doing the complete streets, the
But
drainage.
that doesn't really have anything to do with,
But that's what they are doing, just kind of, I know it has nothing to do with this, but they're involved with the information for the drainage and everything
well,
else.
HSH has given us a proposal. We have two proposals, one from Austin and one from
Yeah.
HSH, and that's the civil engineering piece that Katie
Yeah,
is involved with.
okay.
Right, for the stormwater.
For our drainage in the whole area.
Yeah, unfortunately, the stormwater regulations, like everything else, have gotten much more
Changed.
onerous
Of course they
since the drainage was designed by Austin back in 2016. So give it almost a decade, and now we have much more stringent requirements we have to meet to deal with the stormwater regs on site.
Yeah.
And that is something Austin doesn't do because they're architects, so they bring in HSH to do the stormwater piece of it along with them.
Wow. Such a big effort for such what seems like a small project, but this time hopefully we'll get it done.
But ironically, it's the density and the smallness of the site that makes adhering to these regulations
Challenge.
challenging and expensive.
Correct.
Yeah.
So it's
If we had a lot of field there, it
Yeah.
wouldn't be so bad.
yeah,
Right.
they've got to
Yeah.
find a way to adhere to these regulations in a tiny area.
Does this affect any of the neighbors?
No?
Not at all?
No, so what you're looking at is just runoff on that property and how it's impacting the Bullard House and the parking area. We haven't received any, complaints from neighbors. It's not an excessive amount of runoff, but it is impacting, the Bullard House because it's directly geographically, I don't know if downstream's not the right word because
Yeah.
it's, but.
Downhill anyway.
Downhill, thank you.
Yeah, I think it's not bothering Faith because she's up above it.
Correct, but to June's point, a lot of times what they do is they put in like rain gardens or what are called like retention or detention ponds that can collect water, but you have to have space for those. And so now because the site's so small, they have to structurally design something to contain and address the water, and that's where the expense comes in. Anytime you have to design a structure and engineer it, if you could put like a nice little rain garden in, that's easy and cheap, but.
Do you ever think about that little house way back and what the people living in it would think about what we're having to do
That we're crazy.
for this little house?
Probably.
Somebody should write a children's book about that or something.
The
That will
evolution.
be your job.
That'll be
There
my
you go.
job.
So, the good thing about this is that plans are being made, we're finally getting things moving, and this is the last time it's gonna be done.
Yes, and we're,
Hopefully.
well, hopefully,
Because,
yeah.
because another 4 years, it'll be even more expensive.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, the one thing though about the drainage, so it is to update the parking lot and drainage plans, is $25,000 because of the stormwater component of it. So that eats up a significant portion of the $55,000 in ARPA that's allocated for that. I don't think the remaining $30,000 is going to be enough to build whatever structure needs to be built to address the water. So this is likely to become some type of capital request or perhaps CPA if there could be a nexus between a historic tie. That's something we'll have to look at once we get numbers.
Yeah.
But also, we do have money to pave that parking lot that capital allocated last year, and Fred is like chomping at the bit to pave it, and I'm like, nope, we gotta fix the water first, and he knows, but
Yeah.
we'd love to get the whole thing done. The pieces are coming together,
Yeah.
which is great.
So there's a little more money that he's been awarded.
Correct. He
Yeah.
has, I think, 17,000 or something to do the driveway,
The
to
drive.
pave the driveway in the parking lot, and he's all ready to go. And I went, again, we don't want to like rip it up because we find out that with a small site, we have to do something underneath the parking lot. So, and then the other issue is they said adding any more what's known as impervious surface to the site, which, you know, basically pavement of any kind, will cause more issues because water just flows very nicely on, you know, impervious surfaces. So that impacts some of the conversations we've had around sidewalks and those types of things. I will add one more thing, I apologize for jumping in. The Community Preservation Act Committee came to the Select Board Monday night, and since we're sort of talking joint properties, and you are historical, the front stairs of the 1870, the 1870 committee has disbanded, but they had put in an application to redo the front stairs. And Tim Wheeler asked the select board if they would be the applicant for that project to keep it moving forward. And they have agreed. So it looks like that project is alive still and is going through the CPA rating and ranking process and may be funded at town meeting depending on what the CPA committee decides. But this is just to design the redo of the front stairs at 1870.
And one of the discussions in the CPA meeting on Tuesday night was whether we could piggyback the use of the project manager to extend that to also the stairs. But I said, that's a little bit, we don't even have anybody.
Yeah, I think the stairs
Yeah.
are a little bit more straightforward because there's not so many pieces to it. And it is Austin that is, has been engaged and provided a proposal to design the stairs. So you have that nice continuity with someone who's already working on the
Oh,
site,
that's good,
Yeah.
yeah.
which is
I
nice.
think they were concerned about the access from Faith's driveway area and the complete streets sidewalk.
Correct, because it comes out into the sidewalk, and that's where the complete streets piece does come in, because you have a sidewalk that runs in front of the Bullard House as well as 1870. So there's a lot of different little pieces that all kind of have to connect up to make all of this work. So I think looking at it comprehensively, and making sure, you know, like we don't put in stairs and then go, oh shoot, the sidewalk's too narrow. You know, things like that. It's good that we're doing all of this at the same time.
So there is no committee for the town hall?
They have chosen to disband.
So the select board is taking care of that?
The select board is going to be the applicant, so that means I will be handling the project. So, which is fine, because I'm doing the other ones as well with you guys and, you
So
know,
maybe it'll be
with Fred.
just as efficient, yeah.
Yeah, you know, at first I thought, oh gosh, I don't want to take on another project because there's so much going on, but it does tie into everything going on down there. So Tim and I had a conversation about it. He calmed my fears a bit, because I just look at all of the ARPA funding, and of course it's budget season, so I get a little gun shy about taking anything on during budget season. But, you know, this would be starting in July, so that's a little bit better, because it would go to town meeting if CPA selects it to be recommended for funding. It has to go to town meeting.
Well, I'm kind of sorry that committee disbanded, but
I am too.
I didn't,
I had a lot of hope, and unfortunately, I think there were just some challenges they didn't anticipate, and we were definitely trying to work through them. And I, you know, maybe there's hope in the future. I don't know, but
well, maybe it needs to be a different group. Yeah. Okay, so Lucy, are you okay with your understanding of
Yep.
where we are with project management?
I'm just hoping that this is the very last time we have to do this.
Oh,
Go through all
well,
these plans and meetings.
I
and
don't know,
everything
I think you're overly optimistic.
else. Someone has to be.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
The next thing under the Bullard House is,
Can I just interject here? We finally got, and I forwarded it to you, and I forwarded to you the copy of the W-9 and to the
Saw
town
that.
accountant. The only thing that I'm waiting for now is the certificate of insurance with the updated,
Address?
not address, but the updated date.
I'm sorry, it was dates. That's another one I need that has a wrong address on it.
And that's it, right? No more?
As far as I know, once we have the W-9, the corrected insurance, I did ask we did ask accounting to start processing that check as soon as we receive it, so that they're aware and they're on top of it, and
Yeah.
they know that it needs to be paid as soon as possible.
Yeah, June
so.
had mentioned that to me too, because I did come in and said, gotta get this done.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so there's only one more thing. I was in contact with Mickey Gibbons this morning
Oh, the
again.
building permit. That was the other,
That's done.
that piece is done. Yep, okay.
Yeah, I think I
I
said you
couldn't
forwarded.
remember.
I forwarded last night about 9 o'clock,
Uh,
so you probably haven't seen it yet. But that is done. It was done on Wednesday, taken
Perfect.
care of. Richard I happened to be in the office, and Richard forwarded it to everybody who needed it.
Excellent.
I hope he forwarded it to you
Thank you.
too.
the GIBCAL payment is on the agenda.
Oh,
But,
sorry, I jumped ahead.
And, along with the payment issues, I wanted you to know that, because I'm not sure all of you are aware, on December 16th, I went there to meet with Mickey Gibbons, who had an employee there, to remedy that weather issue, the weather tight issue. And they said to me that it was almost dark at that point, but they were going to caulk the seam that isn't weather tight instead of replacing trim boards. And that should take care of the problem.
Well, I spoke to, because I work in that office, and Richard Hanks was there on Wednesday, and I had Richard Hanks and Mickey on the phone at the same time, on speakerphone, and Richard said that it was okay, that everything was all set. At that time, he's
Okay.
he approved
Yeah,
it.
there's been a lot of wasted time on Lucy's part and my part, and probably Kristen and June, with this contractor.
Well, I think what happened is that, in my opinion, I think that it just there were just too many people involved. That's all I'm going to say. And, when you picked it up, I just kind of backed away from it because,
I
'cause I
picked
was
it up
dealing-
because I had to.
Well, but I was in charge, not in charge of it, but I was still in contact with him and trying to get all this information ready, so. And then he started talking with you, so I backed away from it, but it's okay. It's done, it'll be
Well,
done
there were
now.
issues, the issues preceded, the inability to give us what we need because people didn't understand. That's sort of what I'm
Yeah.
focusing on, is that
Well, once you
that created a lot of wasted time on many people, for you and for the rest of
Yeah.
us, really.
Well, once you spoke with Richard, and he just understood what it was, exactly what was needed. So that was a good point. So we're on our way to get this cleared up and taken care of. So that's
All right,
good.
Good.
So we'll go back to the agenda item about energy. Tim Wysocki answered my inquiry because in the site visits from Joe Atkinson, who is one of the contractors that was suggested for the HVAC, for, transforming our energy from oil to electricity. Joe sent other people a second time to do measurements. They didn't find our existing conditions documents sufficient, so they had to do their own measurements. And there was a person that was brought along who was coordinating all kinds of information, none of which I could answer for him. It was a little confusing for me. So I reached out to Tim Wysocki, and he sent us, and I forwarded to you an explanation of how a grant would work with National Grid. So I wanted to make sure that you had that you had read his response and understood what that was all about.
When did you have a meeting with Tim and Joe? Or
I don't know.
You don't-
I'll have to look it up for
don't
you.
worry.
Yeah. Basically what Tim Wysocki said was that we would, if we wanted to apply for a grant,
Mhm.
it would be in the fall, that the spring cycle is too close. And it would have to be bundled with something else probably. The existing.
You mean like the insulation or something like that? Or-
Well, no, he says, we anticipate that the building management system and insulation improvements at the municipal offices likely will not be fully closed out in time to meet the spring grant window, meaning that we would be
Oh.
eligible until the fall to apply.
We have an active open grant, that's what it is, and so you can't
Yeah.
apply for
Apply for
another one
another.
till that's done. We just were awarded a Green Communities grant to do work in this building.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense,
Yep.
Yeah.
unfortunately.
We would, let's see, trying to find the sentence, so I don't read too
And
much
then
here.
the school is also,
Yeah, that's another thing, but that hasn't happened yet.
No, they have come to Capitol for
Yeah.
the Maytown meeting. So that would be a post-July 1 project if that gets approved to do some heating, cooling upgrades at the school.
Would they, would they give you a grant for, two applications so close together?
No,
I
they
don't-
bundled them.
The bundle though?
They do, but I don't know that the school would meet Green Communities, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I think that's still in the discussion,
Oh,
because what they're more trying to do is cooling with a heating backup, and I have to look at it more, but I thought there was an issue with what Green Communities is about is putting in really energy efficient upgrades, and I'm not sure what they're trying to do at the school meets their goals. It may, they're literally in the preliminary discussions. So they were looking to the town for capital funding, as part of the annual assessment that we pay to the district for BMS. So if it goes that way, it would come out of capital, the capital plan through free cash.
So they're looking for air conditioning mainly.
They're looking, I think, for a system, correct, they have heat, but they have, 2 heat systems, and they'd like to take, I believe, the oil burner system offline
Yeah.
and have it as just a secondary backup perhaps. They have a pellet stove as well. Their main goal though is getting the cooling in there, and then secondary, I believe, is a more energy efficient way of heating. And it's all in the packaging, right? If you package it that it's a energy efficient heating, it
Yeah.
sounds a little bit better than the cooling, but
Yeah.
this is a big issue.
What they were talking last year was,
Yeah.
mini split type stuff
Yes.
for each classroom.
Yes, and I'm not sure if they still
may
are.
not still be doing the same thing.
Yeah, Capitol is meeting next week, so I'll know a little bit more when I sit down and look at that. But they, I don't know if you followed the papers at all last summer. Cooling in schools has become a big thing, especially as temperatures have been rising and we've been having hotter summers. So,
so just for the notes here, bundling
It
with
says,
what? I saw that, I didn't read the whole thing.
Okay.
I mean, I did read most of it,
It's
but.
in the last the next to the last paragraph, it says, "We can and often do bundle multiple projects together
Okay,
under one submission. So it is likely that we would include the Bullard House in the next application."
okay, good,
So that, I mean, I thought it was more specific than that, but it's just
okay.
the way they'll have to do it.
We actually got 2 projects for this building in the last grant round. So there's some insulation as well as updating the building management system or the BMS controls. So you can package it with multiple components, which is nice, and it can be multiple sites too, so.
Could be multiple sites, sure.
Yep.
The second of the 3 contractors that Amanda suggested hasn't gotten back to me yet, and I'll make another, attempt to do that. And I'll also, I think maybe it's, 'cause time is marching on, I'll try to, reach out to the 3rd one. I don't think it would do any harm.
No.
Joe Atkinson from, Energy Efficiency Systems, I think that's the name of the company. He is either going to come with an electrician this coming week, because that's the last piece of the proposal, the puzzle that he needs to put together for his proposal to us. But that last group that came to take measurements and talk, I felt like they were getting way ahead of, that's when I sent you that question about the prevailing wage.
Yes.
Why did they even ask that?
Are they giving you a price?
They need to give us some kind of a figure, because
Right.
we have to apply for a grant, so.
So that would be why they would want to get an idea of the prevailing wage rates,
Sure.
because that would be what they need to use to pay their workers, so that would be factored into the overall cost of the project.
Right, but they asked, do you have to?
Oh, that's right. Do you have to have prevailing wage?
Yeah, and also, I thought that was kind
That's
of ridiculous.
generally understood when you're working
Yeah,
on.
and also, you pointed out that the rates that you go by have to be current. He
Correct.
was asking if, he was referring to the ones that were for this building, that were a couple of years old.
Yes, they're all project specific and they are time specific. So when you basically put in a request through a website for them, you describe the project and then the state sends it back based on what type of project it is, and they're good for 90 days. So, usually they can make an estimation without getting that specific, but if they've never worked on prevailing wage before, he may not have anything to go off of. So that raises a little bit of an alarm bell in my head, because have they done municipal work before?
Well, I thought they had, or maybe they want to, and maybe,
They're getting into it.
yeah,
Yeah.
maybe that's so. Perhaps-
Amanda's a great resource though, and that's all free. So, if they're not getting back to you too, feel free to reach out to her.
And let her know.
And let
Okay.
her know, because she's been great to work with.
Okay.
We have that partnership with National Grid, that they're providing us technical assistance for free. It was a service that they offered to us. We entered into an MOU with them for it.
What's MOU?
Memorandum of Understanding. And the goal of that is to help reduce our carbon emissions or make our buildings more energy efficient. And it's something that National Grid has received funding to work with communities to do. So take advantage. It doesn't cost us anything. So I always say if it's free, it's for me. So
Yeah.
feel free.
Yeah, she was good. That's true. I should get back to her and tell her where we are in the process of trying to get these 3 proposals, or 3 estimates at least.
Right.
Okay, so the last thing,
One of the problems we're gonna have with that is apples and oranges. Each one's gonna come up with their idea for how to do it, and they're gonna be different. And so it's not like just saying who's got the best price. you have to decide whether, you know, what the proposal is and how you think it's gonna work for you. And I don't know, I mean, I've run into this so many times in projects that you talk to 3 different contractors and they send you 3 different proposals, but their
Options.
proposals are different. And so, until you come to the point where you've decided what the specs are gonna be on yours, and then get them to bid on that, you don't really have comparable proposals.
That can happen. I'm hoping, given the building being relatively small, hopefully there'll be some consistency with the proposals. If not, though, what I've done in the past is contacted like a contractor or an engineer that I know, like a
Yeah.
poor Steve Tyler.
Get a disinterested engineer to
Correct,
evaluate.
and just say which of these, or like Tim Wysocki, and say like,
Yeah, well-
which of these do you think, you know, makes the most sense for the building, and then you take that scope and you put it back out, so then you have apples to apples,
right.
because that is a good point, when
Yeah.
you're doing procurement, everybody has to be quoting the same
Sure.
thing.
I did send Joe a printout that Tim Wysocki gave us that described 3 small duct high velocity systems, because Tim thought that one of those would be the best option for and when I first wrote to Joe, I told him those options were what we were looking at.
Perfect.
And I still don't have the sense that perhaps he might branch off from that.
When we had the first meeting with him, it didn't sound to me like he had decided that. He was,
No,
you know,
he said they're noisy.
hmm.
Remember that? He
Yeah.
said that.
So we'll see what
So
comes.
when I do my other inquiries this time, I'll make sure that that's an attachment right off the bat.
Yeah, if you guide them at what you're potentially looking
Yeah.
for, and, you know, like I was saying, if they do come back different, we'll seek some guidance from Tim. Tim is so knowledgeable in this
I know,
area, he's
yeah.
great.
Yeah.
And then, you know, make a determination on where to go from there, and, you know, you can then put the same system that you decide upon
Yeah.
back out for quotes. And some people might say, no, that's not what I recommend, so I'm just not interested in re-quoting,
Yeah.
and that's
Which
fine.
is fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the other things that he said that day was that
Who is he?
small duct
Joe.
high velocity is noisy.
Yeah.
He said, that isn't what you want, that's noisy.
We
I'm
didn't-
way out of my field in
Yeah,
that.
we didn't
Well,
comment, we just
We
let him
didn't
roll.
comment because
Yeah.
I wanted to see what he was gonna come up with.
Yeah.
But I thought, just what does that mean? Where can I go see this and, get an idea of how noisy it is?
Jet plane on a runway, I mean, what are we talking?
Yeah.
So I guess and your point is well taken, because book knowledge is so different from actual knowledge.
Yeah,
And Mary, if I'm not speaking loudly enough, please tell me. I will speak louder. I want you to be able to hear what I'm saying. I have a tendency not to stop to talk loudly. But, I'd rather have someone who's actually got the experience and seen this work
oh, yeah.
than someone who's reading it in a book. All of it is beneficial to us,
Where
but
can I see one of these so I can
Yes.
go get an idea what it's gonna be like?
yes.
Yeah.
All right, I will,
So does that mean you're going to look into that?
What?
High-
Oh.
Small
I-
duct velocity.
Oh, it depends
Well,
on what
we-
he recommends, right? What he
Yeah.
ends
I
up coming
think we
back
should
with.
do that.
Yeah.
And, so when we're talking to these people, if they're talking about a certain kind of thing, we can say, is there any place we could go to see one of these?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
okay. So the housekeeping issues, that was just something I put in there because I don't want us to lose sight of the things that we don't want to be neglectful of things that we can remedy ourselves. But that's been a problem. So perhaps we should have a look this coming week when we let Joe in or at some
Yeah.
point to see if that water to see if our corner post is nice and dry, because of the repair.
But we did the last roof repair, yeah.
And to me, it felt tacky the last time I was there. But hopefully it's dry now. And we need to see if we can deal with the water that was under the
In the bathroom.
vapor barrier. We had a little bit of water under there, and there's a part of that vapor barrier that's become untethered from the outside wall that faces the town hall. And Al Roseberry advocated for us to, put some insulation, stuff some insulation in the cracks in the foundation. I don't know if, at this point.
Well, we could go work on it. It still needs to be done, and I've had it in my head even this week. but-
Well, it's so cold, I mean,
Yes, I understand that.
so I think that's all the things that we've had in our minds to try to work on. Ellie did some cleanup when it wasn't quite so cold.
Yeah, I
And
meant
it's
to
too
get
cold.
back, but
It's
it's
too
been
cold
awful.
now, it's
Yeah.
too cold now.
But it was a great improvement.
Yeah,
When you walk in, your impression is much better.
yeah.
There was,
yeah.
I think there was a lot of muddy feet that went through.
Oh, yeah,
there.
I'm sure that's the case since then,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. Okay, anything else about the Bullard House? We do have a discussion about CMRPC, but I've put that separately because that certainly impacts the Bullard House too. So the next thing would be the historical collection. Barry and I, when was that? November 18th or 19th? One of those days. It was a Thursday. The highway department came to the Red Fire Station and offloaded as much as possible. And did they make 2 trips or one giant trip?
They did one giant trip. They used a couple of vehicles.
Yeah, and relocated a lot of what we had there
A lot of the
To-
essential stuff went
yeah.
to,
to the container that's been freed up at, behind Village Power at the farm. And there's still stuff there that we wanna keep, so we have to deal with that.
yeah.
I don't know if you.
And there's still stuff to sort through a bit too. But
Yeah.
most of, we got the stuff that we thought was essential out as a whole. And there's a few other things that will go, that I think we can get into the storage building by putting some hooks up and doing some things like that, so, we'll work on that now, but
Yeah,
this month has not been my month to get a lot of things done.
I like to commend the people who worked on that because when I went back after one of the visits and saw the change in what you guys sorted through and were willing to give up, and I just want to commend you on that because that was not an easy thing to do.
Yeah. And we've been moving some other things out and
Yeah.
one way and another, and,
And I've actually gone over, because it's so easy for me to just say, oh, hey, I've got half an hour. I'm going to go over and look at more stuff over there. And I did a little inventory on a couple of things, but I was thinking that gradually we probably will have to end up opening one box after another and just make sure. But, that we're not saving too much again.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so I think anytime anybody here wants to go over there, we have the key and we can just go in and,
when I've been in
Go
there
through.
for something, looking for something or whatever else, I usually will check the boxes on the shelves and see
Yeah.
if I can't find another box of paper stuff
yeah,
that,
yeah.
to take up and work on,
Yeah.
to be sorting and dealing with as we go along, so that we're working away at that mountain.
The first thing I did was I looked at the mannequins and
Oh, yeah.
inventoried them because
Yeah.
I don't think we need all those mannequins. Some of them are bad shape anyway.
Yeah,
There are newer ways of
Yes, yeah, that's the other
of
thing.
exhibiting clothing
Yeah,
that don't use mannequins.
and if,
remember, you're gonna spend money on those.
Yeah.
Gonna spend money
And
on
you-
everything,
And
I'm
you might
afraid.
want a couple of a few mannequins just to have it fill out as a real person, but not. So anyway, so I have an inventory of that, but I've been poking around like that. But one of the things that I thought we might want to do first is to just open the boxes and label what's in them. I mean, not all the stuff in it, but to say, oh, this is ephemera or whatever. Because we had to
So-
hurry so much the
So
last
there are
time
boxes that don't say anything on
Yes.
the outside.
Yes,
Yes.
there are some.
that you
Okay.
can't tell
Although
what's
you
in
do
them.
have to look all around them and see if it's on another side,
Yeah,
because you
Yeah.
did a lot of that very thing.
yeah, I did it.
When we were
at some-
taking the boxes out of the bullet
Yeah.
house.
So I think the just sorting before we even study the things to decide if we
Okay.
want them or not, sorting is probably a really good place to start.
So
And putting
what-
labels on.
Sorry,
Oh, go ahead.
thank you. What's happened to all the things that, the artifacts that you've decided you don't want anymore? Because there's
Most of them are still there,
a method, as we all know, there's a method of
Yeah.
disposing of them.
and,
Some of them haven't been accessioned,
a lot of them haven't been accessioned yet.
so that, I mean,
Makes
it's
it
a, it's
easier.
a, it's a moot point, I think. as
So
far-
what if you were to donate it to the Historical
Well, this
Society and
is a-
have an auction with it?
This is an example. We had a box of encyclopedias that were donated by Jane Sawyer, and we can't keep them. So and Barry said we need to talk to Jane. So I let her know. We brought them to the curatorial building, right? Anyway,
Yeah, no,
She
I had
came
them in the
over.
car and
Yeah.
moved them from my car to hers.
yeah. So she made sure that she wanted to keep them.
Uh-huh.
So what we did was return them to the donor,
Mhm.
even though they were never accessioned properly. And she will, she will,
Well, they were
Keep them.
interesting because her grandmother had them before she was married and had written her name in the front of them,
Mhm.
in each book. And that was kind of, interesting. It's why I took them in the first place. But I think when we took them, I'm not sure whether we could keep them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And as we came to deal with the stuff out of that place and what we've got for space now, we just decided they needed to go somewhere.
Mhm.
She took them with the idea that she'd see if she could find somebody else in the family that would like them.
Yep. That's
And
good.
but they're off our bucket.
Well, that makes it a lot easier then.
so we've done a couple things like that.
Yeah, I did the same thing with some of the telephone equipment that Bobby Wheeler had given us, and I gave about half of it back to him and said, I just can't deal with it all. So, but I asked him first, did he want to take it back, or, and he said, yeah, he'd take it back, so
It's made it easy.
I dropped it off.
Return to sender is
Yeah,
always a
return to
good
sender,
option
yeah.
if you
We've been
can.
doing that.
And it
Like that.
is time consuming, but it's something we,
Well,
Well,
yeah.
We'll
we're
be
respectful.
grateful that we
We're as
did later.
respectful as we
Yeah.
can be of,
If it's something that we think has value and we know who gave it and there's somebody we can find easily,
mhm,
fine.
mhm.
so is there anybody, speak up if you wanna work with Barry on this, because we don't always, posting a meeting just to do this when we don't really know if we're gonna have 3 people there.
Yeah. If we got 2, we're fine, so.
Yeah, yes.
My next step, I think, would be to get the things out of there that we really know up front we don't need 2 of, for example, like we talked about the parlor organs. Be great to have a parlor organ,
Yeah.
but do we need 2 of them? And they take up a lot of space. So that's those kinds of things we
Oh,
can
yeah.
do. And then also I haven't done this, but getting in touch with bookstores, used bookstores, and seeing if there's anybody that wants us to just bring over
Some of the
books.
kinds of things we've got.
Yeah, and I could do that kind of thing too.
Right now, the priority is to get cleaned out of the fire station
Yeah.
before I worry about other things. We need to get cleaned out of there so that it's,
Well, Barry, I can certainly help you.
yeah.
I'd like to, dismantle Sylvia's,
We
Village.
talked about that.
yeah, I think as a group, we need, if we could make a decision
Save
to.
the buildings and.
Yeah, to save all the discrete parts. And I don't know about the
plexiglass.
housing.
Oh.
I don't care so much about that, but certainly the pieces should be packed properly until we need to do something else with them. So if we could make a decision about that one thing, that's probably, I mean, when I think of what's in there, that to me is valuable.
It's right there in the middle, yeah.
The other
Model.
model, the other model is of the school.
It's the architect's model of the
Yeah.
school,
Maybe, do you
the
think,
present schoolhouse.
yeah, do you think the school would want that? Maybe,
I don't know. We can offer it to them. I don't know. I mean, the problem is just the space it takes up.
Mhm.
did Assabet work on that? No,
You know what I mean?
did they have anything to do with the new school?
No.
They didn't, okay, I was just looking for interested parties to
Yeah.
accept the model.
No.
Yeah,
Well, one of the members of the building committee cabbaged onto it and took it home. And after a while, gave it to us.
yeah, so
It
now,
was Ruthie Wheeler, and so we have it. But at the same time, I guess it's of limited use, you know, it's
Yeah.
one of those things that I just,
would you ask the school if they would
yeah,
take a picture of it and so they know what it looks
Yeah.
like? Because we really can't keep something like that, at least that's my opinion, when we don't have the room.
Mhm. Is there any place that you could think of that it would be displayed?
I mean, it would look absolutely fantastic in my, basement living room. No, I'm just kidding. I've seen it, it's really
Well,
cool.
you know what?
Yeah.
You've got that nice big office.
I know, I do. I'm hoping to divide that up, actually, make some more office space.
I guess that's not the answer.
Yeah, no, it's a good thought, though.
Um,
I'm trying to think. Yeah, I think the best option might be to see if the
The
school
school, yeah.
wants it, and then, yeah, I mean, something like that, I don't know, that's hard. How did that come to be? Did we pay for that model? Like, was that part of the?
well, it's part of how when they're doing a school proposal,
Oh, they
they'll
put
use
the
that to
architect.
show people what it's gonna be like, so
So
when
yes,
you
we
have
did
the
pay for
town
it.
meeting to vote on whether to build the school, you've got an idea of that.
You've got it there,
that kind of
okay.
stuff. And there was one of the mall, of Solomon Pond Mall,
Oh, that's kind of cool.
when that was being done. I don't know where that one went, but that, again, trying to give people an idea of what it's gonna be like. Some
Right.
people can look at plans and know what that means, and other people don't get anything from it.
To me, it would be of value to Assabet to have their students look at something like that they can compare physically, to what happened.
Oh,
what
some
actually-
of their
Yeah.
students that are doing either like
Yeah, I
engineering
mean-
or architectural. That's worth an ask too. I mean,
I
if the
think,
school's not interested.
If our
Yeah.
school doesn't want it, I think we should ask Assabet.
That's a
Just-
thought.
Just because they're in the trades,
Mhm.
they're,
And they're here with their
I'll
van.
call
They
Lynn
can just
Ryan
put
on
it right in the van
Yeah.
and
I'll
take
call
it
Lynn
back.
Ryan on
yeah.
it.
And, okay, so that's those are two large things in there that we could responsibly give to someone who would care about it. And beyond that, I don't have any specific recommendations for the other stuff.
My suggestion would be to maybe have it displayed at one of the historical society meetings and let people see it again, and maybe someone from there can come up, get some new ideas of where it could be stored, where it could be
Well-
donated. But it would be nice to have it come back out again, at least, in memory of Sylvia.
Oh, that one.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the one
so-
Oh, you're not talking about the school?
No, I'm not talking about the schools.
Well, it might be interesting to do what we said we thought we'd do, is to, could do, is to have the pieces separate now I'm getting back to the village
Yes.
scene.
Yes,
Okay, yeah.
right, right.
Yeah.
And,
sorry.
you know, just pull them out for various combinations of this and this, or set it up again. To be honest, I think if they did decide to save it, it would be nice perhaps to change some of the things, the materials that, for
Oh,
example,
yeah.
the styrofoam. It's a flat styrofoam, but you know, maybe you could,
Well, that's what I mean, you
Reduce the
talked about
space
just
from-
saving the buildings.
yeah.
I
yeah.
think,
Well,
I don't think we can afford to wait until we have a historical society meeting to do that. I think what we could do is bring it to the Memorial Hall and I don't know, I don't wanna make a big deal out of it, because
Right.
then you've got all these people, making the process much harder than we.
Which is already more complicated by this meeting.
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
maybe you pick the best ones, and just save
Well,
3 or
I-
4
Yeah.
of them.
I
The,
gave you my recommendation, which
And I
is
think
to
that we had
disassemble
talked
it.
about that, and I
Yeah,
thought that that
yeah,
was reasonable too,
Yeah,
to save the buildings.
It was
Yeah.
a Christmas-themed thing. It has little Christmas decorations in it. And when we got it from the donor, we showed it at one of our Christmas in Berlin things in Memorial Hall, along with
yeah,
other
I
stuff.
remember that, yeah.
And so, I mean, that's a time that we could use it, because it just fits well as something, and if it hasn't been out for 5 years, it would be, you know, it's another fun thing for people.
And there's always photographs. Don't save the item, but save the photographs and the story behind it.
Yeah.
And that's takes up the least space of all, but I don't think that's a bad
I
memory.
thought we
way
had
to
this one
remember.
configured out before, so
yeah.
Yeah.
What else do we want to talk about?
Okay.
All right,
One and done.
okay, so Ellie's interested in helping you, and I certainly
Yeah.
will help you. And Janet is keeping her eyes open in the
Housekeeping.
at Village Power for us, which is good.
The other great thing we found when we did that was that their remote control for garage doors works on that building, so that they can just go by and go and open the door. Instead of having to have somebody come with a key or whatever else to get in there.
That's great.
So if we know that, if they know we wanna get in, they can get us in easy.
Yeah,
Oh, that's good.
that's good. On Tuesday night, I attended a CPA meeting and CPAC meeting to talk a little bit more about our clothing collection proposal. And I'm pretty sure that it will be approved. I
I
think.
think it has a lot of support.
Yeah. I do need to reach out to Lynn Bassett and ask her about, does she normally sign a contract? Just so that I know what these answers are.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think one of the questions was how frequently she wants to be paid.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I will do that.
And you know, I was thinking when you were talking about the mannequins, that maybe Lynn can help us decide
If those are,
what is the best for the mannequins.
Yeah.
Like, how many do we need, what type do we need, what
Listen,
does she
listen.
recommend?
I'm sorry. I get very annoyed about this, because those of us who have worked with a big exhibit know that when you have a big exhibit, you need every solitary thing you can get to show the stuff.
Yeah, but we
Be-
haven't had one in 20 years.
Yes, we have.
10 years.
Yes, right. 10
10
years. The
years.
last one was 10 years. You don't want to have to make them all every time you try to have an exhibit.
Right, but
There are
But-
other ways of displaying
some of those, I
garments
think
than
that
what you
they
did
wouldn't
before.
recommend
That's
us use
the point
anymore.
that we need to look at what's available now. And I know that we don't wanna spend money because we don't have much to begin with, but,
But I think she could give us some guidance.
yes, and also the materials,
Some of them don't belong on mannequins
Yeah.
anymore.
yeah, they don't.
Mhm.
If you look at the ways that clothing is displayed, there are a lot of alternatives now that might preclude keeping all of the.
Well, start coming up with them so we can look at them, so we can evaluate it.
All right.
Well,
Because-
that's
And-
why I thought that Lynn might be good at advising us where we wanted to head with this.
But
I'm
she
not
won't
saying
be,
to throw them out.
she won't be starting until
Yeah, but we're not,
July, right?
right, but we don't expect to get rid of
And-
what's
yeah.
at Village Power before then, probably.
Isn't
I
there
mean,
one up
One of the
in,
important things is that this is, a prime thing of this is to cull the collection a bit
Yes.
and to get ourselves so that we can handle, again, to help us with the space problem. And that's what we're really, I mean, that's the primary reason why we're trying to do this now, is to help us with
Well,
space.
it jump-started
Oh, yeah.
my thinking about, okay, how can we make this curatorial building work for us? And the biggest offender in terms of space is the clothing collection. Yeah, so that's how that came about.
Mhm.
My other piece, my other statement about that is, it's also the thing that you can get a lot of public interest in. If you have a big exhibit of this stuff, you get more people
Oh, yeah,
feeding in, and people who don't usually go to Historical Society, they'll come to something like that,
yeah,
the clothing
yeah,
stuff.
fashion is a popular
Yeah, yeah.
topic. Okay, so I think that's all I need to report about the meeting I went to. And then I'll follow up with Lynn on the money end of it, how she is usually paid and how we can work that out.
Does that become money that we can just spend, or does that have to go back through CPA for every payment?
Yeah, it does. We'd have to vote the disbursement every time.
We would have to,
Yeah,
and then they would have, but it would have to go back to their administrator or something to actually do it.
no, well, the way CPA bills are paid, the way things are paid that are funded by CPA is that I put them in Maureen's box. She's the administrator for I put them in her box after we voted.
And she takes them to the accountant.
She
That was my
signs
question.
off on them, I guess, or maybe it has to go before the committee first? No.
No.
And then June does her thing. So that's a little different. See, when,
Yes, it is.
in Gibkel's case, I took it to Kristen because that money is controlled by the select board.
That was the
Right.
mitigation money.
But our budget, if it was just something out of our budget, then I would just give
Oh,
it to
yes,
June.
that goes directly from us.
Yeah. So that's how that all works. Okay, so the last and really important thing is that Janet and I met with Jane Wyrick yesterday by Zoom. She is one of the staff for CMRPC, and we are hoping to get their assistance, what they call their technical assistance, to help us with our Bullard House project. And we don't know what form that will take, but we do need to want that as a commission and sign a letter of commitment. And I have a copy of that so that we can all look at it. It's not long. It's,
And you're talking financial help.
both. Planning. I mean, you have to apply, and your application has to be accepted, and you might want their assistance in just planning. It might not be money, but I told her yesterday that it was both.
And planning really is money because you would
Yeah.
be paying for,
Yeah,
for
right.
them to help us
Yeah.
plan, yeah.
This was about, I thought the primary thing we were looking for there was funding, help with grant funding and that kind of stuff.
I think.
Well, that's planning, yeah.
Yeah, it is. The financial part is
It's
part of the deal.
It's getting them to help you write a grant,
Yeah,
or they will actually.
They will write the
Really?
grant,
Yeah.
and we will not have to do that,
We
or,
like that idea.
yeah, yeah.
I have a question, June. They've grown exponentially in their
Yes.
staffing. They're up to 60. They're up to over 60 staff, and they have a wide variety of expertise. Now, as far as I know, they're not like typically engineers, but they have some senior planners with extensive project management experience. And I'm wondering, and grant writing too, obviously is important, but have you broached the subject of would they potentially be able
I
to
did-
provide project management?
I did ask in a sort of a obtuse way. Yesterday, I said, would you, aside from taking like one aspect of what we need at the Bullard House, one individual project, would you consider work, the whole? And what I was thinking up here was management. And she didn't, she wasn't able to answer that. She said she would, she needs to think more about our site, our project. I think that the historic preservation piece in CMRPC is they really want to tie it to the center. And our vision does talk about that.
Absolutely.
She was, my sense was she was very impressed with what we have here in this little community. And did you get that impression too?
Well, she was
had a
certainly
lot to say.
respectful of it.
Yeah, very respectful of it. And I felt that she kind of exhumed an interest in what we had already thought of as potential plans.
yeah.
So
Maybe I should let her have our Dropbox.
Yeah,
Is
what?
that too much information? Our Dropbox.
our Dropbox. Huh.
So she can see.
Oh.
see
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think I think
Or
that would
at
be
least
all
the
right.
mission and
Yeah.
the vision.
Yeah,
She doesn't have that
yeah,
even.
yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
kind
but-
of thinking free project management is where my brain went on this
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
and it may not be in their wheelhouse,
Yeah.
but it hadn't dawned on me before to even ask that question to CMRPC because I haven't known them to do that before, but they've changed so much.
Yeah.
yeah.
So is it possible that they could provide is it Wood Ox?
Wood Ox.
Wood Ox. I keep thinking of Woosox. I cannot
Yeah.
say it right. I'm sorry. Was going to potentially provide.
Yeah.
I think that's worth at least exploring
It is
and
worth
asking the
looking.
question.
It's
Yeah,
worth
I do
looking there
too,
for that.
and that's why I
Great.
timidly asked that question toward the end of our meeting yesterday, because I knew that she couldn't answer it, but I asked it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think if they've expanded that much that they might have this information on the website? You know, what their services that they provide?
Well, it's project focused,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
so it
It's very
I went-
varied
yeah,
what they do
I
with
went through
DLTA.
their website, and
So-
it's really mind-boggling.
So project focused towards the work, the actual physical work being done to the building, or project focused toward the concept of what we're, of a museum, what we're doing, what we're trying to, like two different
You
sides.
know,
Well,
we had kind of thought of,
Both, I think.
we were brainstorming, if I could find it, here it is. If we were brainstorming some of the, that question.
Yeah.
And you had said the three things, if it was going to be planning or actually proceeding to create something, that it could be building the foundation,
Yeah.
if they would give us some money to
Foundation
help.
issues.
And drainage, foundation and drainage. The second one was energy and heating. And the third possibility we thought of was the accessible ramp.
Yeah.
That if it was going to be money that could be used for that kind of a project, that those might be one of the three that we would
Yeah.
try to get
They
their
could help
support
us raise
for.
money for.
Yeah.
And project management is like this umbrella over the whole thing.
Yeah.
Right, looking at the project
Yeah.
comprehensively.
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example. One of the things that they're doing right now, or they're going to be doing, is because they're planners, right? So that's their main thing, and they're looking at helping Auburn with the redevelopment of the mall and getting that ready in terms of how do you look at zoning, how do you market it, how do you package it out for developers that might be interested, what are potential uses, you know, whether you're doing, you know, you're looking at current market trends, survey. I mean, they do, and the reason I know this is because we were talking about the Solomon Pond Mall, and they said, oh, well, we're doing this in Auburn, and it really triggered, this just happened this week, and I went, oh, they've really expanded what they do, because they used to be really more like zoning focused, like zoning bylaws,
Yes,
like,
yeah.
you know, planning for like the first stages of a project. Like you've got a site, a vacant parcel, what do you want to do here? And getting your zoning lined up so you could build like a project, like a housing project or a, you know, a commercial or industrial project. But I kind of like this.
Well, they really started out working with planning boards.
Correct.
As an extension there. And-
Housing
But over
issues.
time, that has expanded a lot, and, you know, and talking to Tim Wheeler about it and so forth, who's been involved there right along, it's much expanded. I wanna, this letter that you've got here, I got news for you. You just complicated our world tremendously if you do this, because that's a whole different, that's all the stuff, you know, that's the inventory of historic structure stuff and all of that. And this is obviously something we're interested in and all. We can't be working on that now. We've got too much else going here. We've got to limit, what we're trying to do now is work with the Bullet House project.
But then, why can't we bring them in on that if that's the thing that we really need the help with?
Yes, I mean, that was the point of that.
So.
This
yeah.
isn't about that. This is about
This-
planning for all historic structures in the town stuff and documenting them, which we've worked on and which we will work on more sometime. But right now,
You
we
wanna-
can't put a
you wanna
whole bunch of
limit it?
time into that when we've got these other things going.
Tim Wheeler wrote this. Tim Wheeler wrote this.
Oh,
I didn't ask him to, but he just volunteered this.
it isn't that I don't agree with this as a thing to do, but we've,
Yeah, I don't think this is meant to be the things that we would do specifically. I
This
mean,
is
I
just
don't
to
think
get
we're,
this
we're,
letter
we're planning on
moving.
taking all these buildings and doing this and that. That did not come up in the discussion, but, I think it's more, you know, amongst all of these things, you might find something that fits exactly what it is that we're trying to do. And I think that's what they're interested in, is can they find a good fit for us with what we're trying to do? And I think this was meant to be a very broad, look guys, you can come to us with anything and we'll figure out if we can help you with it. I mean, that's sort of the attitude that you get from them. And so,
It's very open-ended.
yeah, I think it's super
I
open-ended.
had the same,
And it wouldn't ask, it might be
Yeah.
something we're already trying to get done. And they
no,
would say, we
I'm-
can.
I'm
help you."
looking at the thing,
I had the same reaction that you have now when I first read it, but I trusted Tim's familiarity with the way they operate, so that I thought, well,
Historic Preservation Planning Assistance Funding scares me because it sounds to me like it's, again, it's some federal program or state program or something that you're trying to, and you have to fit yourself into what they want to do.
It's their program, though. I see exactly what you're saying, and I had to read this twice to pick it up.
Yeah.
They're just trying to fit within this funding, and this is the Historic Preservation Planning Assistance Funding
Yeah.
is through the DLTA program, which is administered by CMRPC. So that's where they take the money that they get from the community. You know how they give us they charge us an assessment every year,
Yeah.
and then they get sometimes they get additional funding.
Oh, yeah.
But you're leaving it deliberately broad. Initially to say that you fit the criteria of the program, but if you read this, the Bullard House qualifies under this.
Oh, yeah.
It completely fits within the parameters. So to me, I look at the second paragraph as like the stock language that you
Yeah,
have to
that's-
say
that's
in
what
order
I-
to get
yeah.
the money.
Yeah.
Does that, and then
Yeah.
you say like, we're interested in
This is what
historic
we wanna do now.
presentation.
Develop the specific
And then you develop the
project.
project, exactly, because I read it that way too, I went, wait, are we going way beyond the Bullard House now?
This
Because like,
isn't saying we want funding for the Bullard House, this is saying we want funding.
correct, and then we're gonna tell you that we want you to use it on the Bullard House if you give us funding.
Yeah.
And our conversation with Jane Wyrick was focused right on the Bullard House.
Okay.
And-
So I think we also have an obligation to the town. You know, our goal is to, rehabilitate Bullard House and actually make use of it. But our second goal is to make sure that we do this and something that is financially, that is saving money for the town. I think we have to be careful about the finances too. And I see, I'll be very honest with you, I see sorry, got the name wrong, but that's gonna be a big bill. So if we can find someone or someone else who can give us similar or as much information that we need that costs us less, where we can actually get some funding for it and not necessarily go to CPA money all the time to get that, because we think of it as like a gift, but it's on our tax bills.
True.
And I would rather take a few more minutes, if we have to take a look at this, see what they can provide for us to try and reduce the cost to us. I just got my tax bill and it went up quite a bit. And, I'm on
Yeah.
a fixed income here and it's like, okay, now what do I do? So, I think that it's in our best interest to do this. I don't say take another 3, 4, 6 months to figure this out, but see what can they do for us as quickly as possible, find out, is it worth our time? And there has to be things like in the Massachusetts Historical, commissions that would give us information as to how we can go towards grants and funds.
Well,
And you
we've
are.
promised to write an MPPF grant, and we
Yes.
haven't followed through yet.
And Barry, I take your point very well, because I agree. It's like, let's get this thing done. But I think we have to be financially responsible for our town too.
This makes me really excited, I'll be honest, because I didn't know that CMRPC had
This
delved into historic
Well, this is
preservation.
new,
Oh, yeah, I
this
did
is
know
new,
that.
and Tim
I did.
Tumble, he made us aware.
Okay.
Um,
I mean, I knew they touched on it through, a little bit through their programs,
But
but to
they've
have.
just barely added it on this year.
Yeah.
Well, the end of last year, I guess.
So we're talking about this. Do we want to go forward with, investigating this further?
Just let me throw something in that might be nice to hear, and that is that right now, the people that, the groups that they're working with are doing their thing, and it wouldn't be for at least a couple of months before they would get to sit down with us and start
So
talking.
we need to start doing this now if we want to do
Yeah,
In
it.
order to
and
do
I
that.
said, and I said
Sometime
to her, I
this year.
think you remember, I
She'll
said
get back
to
to
her,
us in 2 weeks, she said.
oh, was it? I
2
thought
weeks.
2 weeks,
But
but
the
but it
fin-
was a couple of
the
months before
cycle,
they would probably help
It's
us.
February.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
not really,
The cycle.
it's
is-
the end of February, so it's at least a month, maybe,
Yeah.
not quite 2
I-
weeks.
If
I
our
heard two,
understanding
but
is,
that's okay.
if our understanding is that this is the action you take in order to set in motion your ability to work with them, then that makes sense to me.
I think that
But
is a
I
good way of
do,
putting it.
I mean, we're not looking to do survey and planning right now because we've got too much on our plate.
Well, we wouldn't choose
Before
that
we go
then.
back to that. We've
See-
been there before, but before we can go back and spend a lot of time on that, we need to get the Bullet House project
Yeah, she,
kind of
Right.
out of the way.
she
And
mentioned that grant, and I told her that.
I might add that
yeah.
not the Historical Commission's business totally, but the Historical Society's business. That's why we just put the priority, get the Hearst House done, so that project is off our plate, so we can begin to look at other things again. And that, we're about there. I expect that to be, we should actually be doing a transfer to the town pretty quick.
Great,
And in which case, then it becomes under the commission,
yes.
it would be placed under the commission's care, so.
And then we have an insurance matter, we need to put it on our insurance, I believe, so we need to have
Yeah.
that conversation.
Yeah,
Okay.
Did you edit Mary Reddington's press release?
oh, yeah.
You did?
Before you responded, I had already done that.
Okay, good. Well, it's in the paper today.
Oh, it's in the paper today?
Yeah, so it's in the item today, and,
Okay.
and Mary sent it to, she sent it to you, so you'll see it
Okay,
if you don't get the paper. And Peg Stone had messaged me a while back about having more awareness of our historic resources, and she said, you know, people will see that Hearst House and they won't even know what it is. So I pointed her to Mary Reddington because I knew Mary was going to, you know, write a narrative about how it all came back.
her problem is she never read any of the stuff we put out over the years.
Well, and at 19, at 19 Carter, I actually have a display on the Hearst House.
That's right.
And I keep adding, when I find something else, I keep adding to it. So I pointed her to that too, so she'll probably, I don't know if she'll do it today, but Peg will copy that article and post, she's anxious to post it outside your office, I guess, where you have a
Peg,
bulletin.
we
Yeah.
do, we have a wall of fame, we're outside of our office, so yeah, we'll definitely get that up. One thing I just wanted to say about this, you know, kind of in closing, is this makes me really excited because I've had such mixed feelings about the project manager, in that I know that you need one, but you can't afford one because you need that money for the actual project
Exactly.
itself.
And we don't
So-
actually have funding for that purpose in
Correct.
place.
Yeah.
So this might be that light not light at the end of the tunnel, but you know what I mean? Like the path forward, I guess is what
Yeah.
I'm trying to say. Like, you know, even if they're able to help with like the sequencing and mapping some of those things out, because I keep coming back to Paul McKelk talking about sequencing, and I'm going, yes, let's make sure we don't rip something up because we put something in first, you know, and it's just having someone kind of generally looking at that as a whole. Land use, you know, planning is my honest to goodness weakest area. I can't be good at everything, and I'm a generalist, but that's a big gap, and we have the planning board and Tim, who are amazing, but we don't actually have any day-to-day staffing here in the town doing it either. So to bring them in is genius. Like, I never thought of it.
I did.
Tell Tim he's my new
And
favorite person.
this is the thing that we've come up with in terms of project management. We're not looking for somebody to tell us all the things to do.
Right.
We're looking for somebody to make sure that we understand the project well enough ourselves and to help us with the sequencing and that. In other words,
Right.
we want limited project management, really.
In my messaging to Rob Corey, who is this person that
Yeah.
we'll meet with, you know, I pretty much told him it's a matter of sequencing and the level of remediation, you know, because people are not happy with what TF Moran proposed. They think it's
Right.
really over the top. And he said, when I spoke to him this week, he had looked at the TF Moran plans, and he said he really would be very cautious about any drilling. And drilling would be part of some of the work that's proposed on
They had
on that progress
TF
set.
Moran
Yeah,
plan?
yeah.
Yeah.
So-
We've heard that many times from people, you know, anyone looking at that. We've heard the drilling is dangerous. I think, you know, Paul McKelk has mentioned it. I think Gib Kell has mentioned it. That drilling would be very
Yeah, disruptive.
dangerous for that. It would cause more
So,
problems than
And
resolve.
the other thing I wanted to mention was that he said he usually, just so that we know, he usually customizes his participation according to the project and the needs of.
And their needs.
So, if we were to get funding and we were to like him and his approach, then I think the appropriate level could be worked out. But we really, I just wanted to, I've been paying attention lately to some political developments, and there's something that Nancy Pelosi said. She said, diversity makes you strong, but unity makes you powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted us as a commission to respect that idea, because we really need, preservation doesn't have a lot of advocacy, and we have to get ourselves together and present not a divided front, but a unified front. And I know that we can't all agree with one another, but we really do have to step it up here.
Yeah.
I have a question, just jumping back a little bit to the CMRPC issue. I don't know quite where we stand right now with that. And fortunately, because of their scheduling of people that they're working with right now, they wouldn't be ready for us to really get serious with them, I don't know why I heard a couple of months, but anyway, I think it would be at least that.
Well,
And
I
so-
thought she said the end of February.
Yeah.
Which is a
less
couple
than-
of months.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so do you want me to pursue this, or us to pursue this anymore? Or do you want to say,
I
this is...
think it's a decision on whether we send out this letter or not.
Yeah, we need to
Well,
vote.
this letter was written before we knew that they couldn't immediately meet with us. And that would be this is the new wave of projects and so on. So,
But
I
I think
don't-
this is the next step.
yeah,
right?
so we can set this aside and not sign it now, whereas before, if they were gonna try to rush us through it, we would have had to decide now.
Well, it would seem to me we've got to decide it by next month.
Yeah, yeah, and
in order to
if
be
you
ready for
want to,
February.
Yes,
I mean,
but
I don't
we
want,
don't even meet until the 14th.
yeah,
Of February.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I
don't-
I guess the big piece, and I'd want to hear Tim say it, but Tim Wheeler say it, that this is just the way to get into working with them. And it doesn't mean that we're actually gonna do all of this stuff now. It means
we're not gonna ever
We're
do
gonna-
all of that stuff
Well, we may.
necessarily.
We may.
I mean, something else might come up.
Yeah.
I don't know, my sense is that it's kind of a user-friendly organization.
It is,
Um,
Yeah.
And so we can't tell, they can't tell us right now what they would do with us,
Right, we tell
because
them.
we're gonna tell them what we need to do, you know?
Yes.
It's much more
And
oriented
can they help
toward-
us with it?
Yes,
Well,
yes.
let's, we're talking about sequencing. How about if we start our own sequencing here? I come from a computer, project management background, with working with software. You have to do, and you do things in order. So if we start looking, I will suggest, and I'll be happy to do this, I will be happy to go in and take a look at what they do online, find out what it is that they provide that we can see online, that gives us the information that we can pick and choose what is of interest to us. And we do have to do our own work
Yeah.
sometimes.
Under historic preservation, you will see a lot of district, focusing on historic districts.
Well,
That addition to the website is new.
Well, let me take a look at it, before, I want to take a fresh look at it to see what it
Well,
is
go ahead and
without,
look at it, yeah.
and
Now, what
come
is it
back,
specifically you're looking at? I missed
The
that.
website.
the websites.
Oh, their website,
Plus
okay.
their website, plus any other websites and there's a plethora of information out there. You know that, we all know that.
To get a better understanding
To
of
get-
the program, is
Yes.
that, okay.
you know, just to get an understanding, what is it that they're doing? Does this fit for us? Is this something that we want? Then the second part, we come back here and talk about it, and we look at this letter and think, do we want to add anything to this? Is this the way that we want to present this request? And then work with that, and how do we integrate this with all the other plans that we have, and what makes sense? You know, like the project management, I mean, I look at the project management from Woodrocks? Woodocks. And to me, that's just like a big, you know, I don't know what Rob is planning, but it just seems like, wow, we can throw a lot of money at this and not get much for our, you know, much in return. But just say, yep, we're doing this, okay,
Well,
this is fine.
There's two things here.
You know, but you gotta you have to have a different look sometimes, and I know that you've been looking at this for years, and you're looking at something, but I want a fresh
gotta
eye.
have to put a
Having
time
a
limit on
different
it.
mind look at the issue and do it from a different direction
Yes.
is always useful in increasing our understanding. It may be that you'll find things that we've missed, and it may be the other way around.
Yes.
But the fact that you're making that kind of an investigation will help us to have a better understanding of the whole
Yeah.
thing, and I think that's fine.
The other interesting thing is that some of the money that they get, they have ways of supplying some of that money. Some of this we're not going to pay for, and so that's the other
Yes. Oh,
reason
yeah.
to look at it a
Oh, yeah.
little more closely
Yeah.
than some of the other ones. But I'll see if I can come up with some of the.
I think I've said before at one of
Information.
these meetings that CMRPC is a wonderful study in how to fund things, because that's what they do. The town pays them a pittance, and I assume that
$1,000 a year.
the other communities do a similar amount. It was 500 not that long ago.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
And-
Yeah, it's right around there,
Yeah,
900,
and,
yeah.
I mean, it's nothing.
Yeah.
And they go out and find the funds to run their organization on,
Correct.
basically.
Yeah, and they
And-
will write up your what-
Grant application.
So-
Yes, thank you.
And then they take the
They write the
administration
applications
money.
for us.
It's
Yeah.
genius.
And then get that. So
Yeah.
it is just to let you know, it's a different kind of organization.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're not gonna do the project management, Lucy. They're just gonna fund our way of doing it.
Which is fine, but do we, you know, like, let's make sure that we know what we want.
Right.
Let's
that's
make sure
always
that
good.
we, you know.
See
and-
what you can find out, it's fine.
And that's it, you know, but June, I'm one of these people, it's like, I do my investigations before I come up and bring in anyone's
Well,
information.
Yeah,
And I don't wanna
think I've looked
be-
at it so much that I
But
expect
you look
everybody
at
else
it,
has.
but yes, and you have, and you've done a wonderful job, but you're looking at it like this, in your perspective. So let's open it up a little bit.
Well, we need to put a time frame on this.
Well, February 14th, right?
No, that's too long. I think that's way too long.
Well,
I
what-
would encourage
Well,
you
and
not
what are
to
you planning to
wait.
have happened by then? That's still
Well,
not totally clear to
what
me.
we have on the table is Lucy's wish to investigate their website more closely to see if she thinks
Okay.
it's appropriate
All right.
for our commission.
And then the other thing is, there's no reason in the world we can't ask them to talk with them in person. Again, I mean,
Oh, yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
you guys haven't met any of these people, so we should do that if we're wondering.
So what's your suggestion for a time frame? Next week, 2 weeks from now?
No.
Because we're already, this
If
is,
we-
the-
If we're gonna
2
be
weeks
doing
is
research
long-
on this
2 weeks
stuff?
is
well, if February 14th is too long, then 2 weeks is,
half that.
yeah. So is that what you want?
It's up to everybody, but I think 2 weeks is long enough. You could even,
Well,
make
what are
it-
you
make-
planning to do in 2 weeks?
I'm
That's
not
the part
planning to do
that's not
anything.
clear
I've
to
looked
me.
at that
We're
website
gonna
so
do some
much
research. We're gonna do
and
some
I'm satisfied, and
personal
I've
research,
been
yeah.
able to meet with
Yeah.
at least Jane, and I actually have met with Trish Settles and Kerry
Yeah,
before that.
Yeah.
So I have a familiarity that other
There-
people don't have.
and it's hard because the nature of their program so reflects their personalities too, and so it's hard for me to sort of separate those things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we could Yeah, that's why I keep saying, what do you want to do? Do you want to get to know them and have them present their program to everybody?
Ask Lucy, she is the one who.
What I want to do is to investigate, to just go out and do some research, check this out, I'm gonna get a little bit of information from you if you don't mind.
Sure.
As to what, their website, because I don't have that specifically, I'm sure I could find it, but it would be nice.
CMRPC.org, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay. And, see what they have.
Yeah.
Because, yes, what's happening is that I want to look at the whole picture. And you're speaking to someone who's specific, which is, fine. But sometimes you just have to go a little bit further. And I don't mind looking at other websites also to see what they provide. And,
What are these other websites?
well, I don't know yet. That's what I do, is I do some research.
Fair. Well, why don't you do that, and
That's
then
what I
fill
plan
us
on
in with
doing.
what you find.
But we can't limit ourselves to what we know. We have to kind of expand and do some research. And that's,
When do you think you would be ready to meet so that we could either not support this or support it?
well, let's see.
Because I think you're the one that needs some verification, and I don't think the rest of us do.
I think we have to be a little bit more open-minded and look at more at different things. And that's what I want to do.
That's fine, I'm just
I
asking you
know,
what
but-
kind of time you need.
You'll find a
well,
lot of material online
know.
about them,
I know.
so,
I
maybe,
think
how
I
much
said
time
2
do you need to
weeks.
find that
I
material?
think I said 2 weeks.
So that is what day?
Because that's,
May I make a
24?
recommendation?
yes.
I wouldn't wait longer than 2 weeks, only because this is free money. So that means other community,
Mhm.
other cities and
Mhm.
towns in Mass can go after this, and you don't want anyone to get in the queue in front of you
Yeah.
that would push it out further. I understand wanting to
So it won't
look
be
at it.
more than 2 weeks, but we do need to look at things
Yep.
too.
I will tell you, this is really interesting. My one tie to Berlin before I came here was Tim Wheeler, and it's because I sat on the CMRPC board with him. So I'm very
Okay.
familiar with the organization, so I'm happy to talk about it too.
Yep.
This is their money, so it doesn't come with the strings attached to it like federal and state funding, because I understand your concern as well as your concern, like, are we tying ourselves into doing something? Is this really what we wanna do? This is really technical assistance money, and they will say, cities and towns, we're like a planning extension of your town. Like, what can we do
That's right.
to help you? Because there's so many small towns like us in all over the state, but in
Mhm.
Central Mass specifically, that don't have the staffing resources to do this work. So
Yeah.
they act as another kind of arm. So it was just really funny. I happened to see Tim on my interview panel, and I went, I know you, and he went, I know you.
Mhm.
It's been a long time. I had a different name. Back in
Yeah.
2011, we sat on the
Yeah.
board together when I worked for the city of Worcester. It's a really cool organization. Totally understand wanting to understand it more. I would also recommend that you still talk to Wood Ox, because it does not hurt to explore that. That doesn't cost anything.
No.
Well, we still have to have a project manager.
Right, so
They're
you
not
can
gonna-
do it
they're
on
not gonna-
parallel
they're not gonna-
paths.
They're not gonna do that for us.
Right, they may do some, and I think it's worth asking the question what they can and can't do. But that would just be my recommendation. You explore this a little bit, you explore the Wood Ox a little bit, but don't get too stuck in the details to where you miss out on the opportunity to get the free funding, because they only have a limited pot of it, and once it's gone, it's gone. So
Yeah.
I would set that 2 weeks and stick to that pretty firmly.
So-
I would say that coming up on the 2 weeks, Lucy needs to report back to June whether she thinks she has something that we need to all know, and that we be prepared to act in 2 weeks. With a meeting if needed.
Mhm.
With a meeting if needed.
Well, I can't sign this without your vote.
Would it be helpful for you guys to talk with one of their people?
No,
would it-
not
is
at
it-
this point.
it
You've
doesn't-
done that, you've done that
Okay,
already.
Okay,
You
yeah.
know, so I don't think we need to
I mean, I was just
reduplicate
gonna
that.
say that if that would help you to understand the organization better,
What,
I think
I'll
they
tell you
would do
what-
that,
Well,
but-
see, part of what my research would be is that if I need to contact someone, then I would.
Mhm.
You know, just ask more information. I don't think we need to vote on it, I don't think, that's what I do, that's my background. I do ask questions, and go
I think
back
we
and
all
forth.
do.
And, you know, we
Yeah.
all have our own
We're not
background, so let's
suckers,
get.
we're not suckers, you know.
Good. I'm
Been
not
around
saying
a
you
while.
are. I'm not saying you are. I never said that. But
No,
we
I'm
just
just-
need to
I'm
work
defending
together. And like you said, unity versus division, you know, give me a little bit of unity also. I would appreciate that. You know, that, yeah, maybe it's not what you would do, June, but that's what I would do. And then I'll come back and let you know, and then we can all decide on it.
Yeah, I don't wanna lose the opportunity
And
to
you-
get the funding.
Do you wanna shrink it, less than 2 weeks or not?
You know what, I'll do what I can, and I will not do,
I
it will
think
not
what
take
Barry
any-
was proposing is that if you don't,
It'll be within
If you
2
don't
weeks,
come up
for
with,
sure.
with information that would make us change our view,
I'll let you know,
yeah.
I'll let you know.
so that we could vote
Mm.
to go forward with this, pending two things, pending Lucy's
Yeah,
investigation and also your,
like to confirm with
Yeah,
Tim Wheeler
yeah,
that,
right.
the approach that Kristen had mentioned, that this is
Mhm.
the
boilerplate. yeah,
opening,
yeah.
the way you get open to
Yeah.
get into it.
It's how you walk in the door.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think,
So-
and I think that makes sense,
Yeah,
but I
we
wanna
can-
just see if that's what Tim's intention is too.
That's fair.
Unless Lucy doesn't think it's appropriate, we could vote to put this forward pending Barry's,
Pending
Uh,
couple of these things.
these two issues.
I moved we authorize June to sign this letter, provided that we don't find something that makes us really need to reconsider it.
I'll second that.
And that if we do find something in that regard, we will hold a special meeting in a couple of weeks.
All right, so 2 weeks,
Here's the
I need to
24th.
know in 2 weeks from both of you.
Yeah,
And when would that, what's that date?
I think it's the 24th, right?
It's the
Today's
20,
the 10th?
yeah, so
Yeah.
it'd be the January
It's
24th.
24th. Close enough, I'll make sure of the date.
And that's actually when she was gonna get back to us.
Mhm.
okay.
So if,
So
um,
the 2
So
weeks is
that
worthwhile.
could also be
Okay.
a reason for a meeting too, so we'll
Yeah.
see.
Just so
Okay.
you know,
So-
I am not available on the 24th, not that you need
Yeah.
me to have a meeting. I just wanted to let you know, that is our one time a year conference that we have in Boston. It's the Mass Municipal
Yeah,
Association
yeah.
and meeting in Boston. I'll be at that
Yeah.
day.
so we need to.
Sounds like fun.
We need a motion.
I did
it's a
make a
good
motion.
Yeah,
you did.
That-
It's-
To
I
authorize you
second
to
it.
sign it, depending,
Okay.
unless we find something that makes what we've considered so far that needs
You
some
can-
more consideration.
Yeah,
All
what-
right,
Yeah.
And it's been
Feet.
seconded.
okay.
And it was
so-
seconded, Lucy
Yeah, I
seconded
seconded
it.
it.
Okay, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimously approved. All right, so we might not have to meet,
We might not have to meet,
okay.
but even if we decide not to meet, I'm gonna be interested in Lucy's take on
Absolutely.
what she's found out, because that'll help us in
Yeah,
our
you wanna make,
global
Well,
understanding.
maybe
Yeah.
you could, let's see, how could we do that?
On a Wednesday afternoon, hopefully, maybe, or Wednesday morning.
Well, the big thing is whenever we
can't do
set a
it this
meeting
morning.
for, she's gotta post the meeting the 48
know.
hours in advance and all that, so.
Yeah, well, I'll just, talk with you.
Hmm?
We can just have a phone conversation, I guess, and I can email you whatever I find,
Yeah.
if you'd like. And that way we don't have to set up a meeting. So if you BCC people, does that make it okay to,
As long as no one responds. You can't have a conversation with more than 2 people over email, or it's
That's right.
considered a meeting, essentially.
If you've got 3 people in on the conversation, then it's a meeting.
mm,
Because you can't make any decisions over email or
so if I
outside of a meeting.
BCC, is that okay?
Well, see, we've made a decision already, but what we've left the door open for is some new information. And if we get some new information that changes what we thought our understanding was here, then we wanna have a meeting.
Well, and I think that it's, you know, if I'm gonna find out this information, I wanna pass it on to everybody, so everyone has a chance to look at it
Yes,
and
you could say
understand it.
informational only,
Yeah.
here's what I found,
And
please
there's-
do not respond.
yeah, and
You can
there's
spread
loads of
information.
information, you'll
Yeah.
find it.
I'm sure there
And
is.
also, yeah, I mean, that says it, basically.
Yeah, you
Exactly.
can share
Yeah.
information, absolutely, just don't start a conversation about it.
Right.
Information only.
So
For
I need the
information.
information, we need the information by the 21st. Because if we
In
don't.
order that we could have a meeting
Oh,
on the
to be able to
24th.
post in
Yeah.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all right, that's fine.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So the only other topic was the Hearst House, and I think we've already touched on that.
Mhm.
Look at your item article that Mary wrote, or might be posted by the end of today.
Could have been in.
And if you go to 19 Carter, there's a display there.
And we'll be
Yeah.
doing more about it once the weather is warmer and we can set up an exhibit and invite the public there. We'll do more public stuff about it then. Okay, are you,
Yes.
Well, one thing I like about this, I can just add one more thing, is it gives us time. It's
This
not
is
like
Yeah.
you have to tell us
Lucy
by next.
for her minutes.
Oh, thank
I-
you.
I was- to have
That's
people-
just a financial
yeah,
report.
Okay.
Okay, so is there a motion to adjourn?
no, I'm not ready to adjourn.
Okay.
You've got other historic preservation on the list and we haven't talked about it yet.
I'm gonna excuse myself. I do
Okay.
need
No,
to
no,
run.
no, because I'm
Okay.
gonna ask you a question.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
I want to
You're not
know,
dismissed.
there was an article on the last town meeting warrant during its development stages about the Legion Hall. And
Yes,
I wa-
it got pulled off.
It got pulled off. Now,
Mhm.
what happened to pull it off?
The Housing Trust was not ready to move forward with it. They needed to do some additional research.
How about this? We're very vitally interested in that building.
Okay,
And I'm not at all happy with the idea of doing that. And I'm not, and, you know, from another standpoint, I really think that we need to make sure we have a meeting of minds about it, because letting it go, letting it get rebuilt, letting it get torn down and replaced, that's the last of those one-room schools. And we own it. It's, at least in some relative ways, the way it originally was. It's had a lot of modifications, so, but it really is an important preservation thing, and it is a possible program thing for historic programming in the future. And it could work into our plans with Bullitt House and curatorial building and all that stuff too.
so I have two recommendations for you on that.
Yeah.
The first, I would recommend the committee decide if you want to perhaps write a letter to the select board
Yeah.
and get on a select board agenda to
Yeah.
share your concerns with them.
Yeah.
I would do the same with the Housing Trust, because this is being pushed by the Housing Trust, but also the select board is looking at the buildings now in town
Yeah.
because of the facilities study.
Yeah.
That would be my recommendation.
Is the lease with the Legion still alive?
That I do not know. I can tell you there's some mold remediation that
Yeah.
no one can go in that building right
I know
now. It
about
has
that.
to be, and we don't have the funding to fully remediate it. That's the only thing I know about that building, that it's not being used right now because of those issues.
Yeah, it has been, I mean, the building since the 1950s has been under supposedly a $1 a year lease to the Legion,
Okay,
something like that. Now,
we'd have to look into that,
how much
yeah.
that has been honored in late times, I can't answer, but it basically has been the Legion's building for that time. In more recent years, they have gotten the town to, the highway put a roof on it, they replaced the windows and doors, they did a bunch of things like that with some town money, I believe. Though, the Legion used to heat it, but they've stopped that. And I don't think they've met in it for a while, and as you say, it's not in use right now. But I do, vitally, that's a very important preservation thing. We have mentioned it a little bit here before to find out what was going on, and that's why I wanted to ask
Oh,
that
yeah,
question
no.
while you were here.
Before I scampered away.
Yeah.
The other committee, sorry, I didn't mean to leave out capital. The capital committee is involved in, obviously, the buildings and
Yeah.
the future of the buildings as
Yeah.
well. So those would be the three groups. I would recommend perhaps you send a letter to all three and get on an agenda to continue to have this conversation with those groups, because those are the groups that are involved. It is, the select board is the owner, if you will, of all of the buildings in town, but they clearly take their lead and recommendations from those other groups as well, so,
yeah.
including historical. So that's why
That's the third.
I would, that would be my recommended path to move forward.
And capital.
So the three things, say that again?
Capital Planning Committee,
Capital planning.
Select board.
Housing
Okay.
trust.
And housing trust.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Housing Trust, you know, you might want to actually just make a phone call to Lisa Wysocki, who's the chair, because she can tell you more about the specific particulars of
What they
why
were thinking
they're
of.
interested in it.
Mhm.
The
Well, they're
select,
looking for a building lot. They're looking for building lots, I know that.
yeah, I think they had some specific things in mind. It would have to be put out to bid, and it does have to be approved by town meeting. So a transfer of that building to the Housing Trust is not the end of the game. So once it's in the Housing Trust Authority, if they were to sell it, lease it, anything like that, that still requires a RFP or a request for proposals process or a bid, like an auction,
Yeah.
to dispose of it, if you will.
Mm.
Disposal means seller, lease, so. So first it would be town meeting, and then the second, there would have to be an open public process. And obviously, the building meets the criteria for demolition delay, waiver, if for, I mean, I'm not saying anyone's talking about that, but it, you know, there are different criteria that would have to be met and stopping points along the way. So it's not like, you know, the building's being leveled
yeah.
tomorrow, or anything
But
like
at
that.
the
I just
same
wanna put
time-
you guys at ease there.
Better to get into the process sooner than in the middle of something that somebody else is doing.
Agreed, and that's why I think a phone call to the Housing Trust as well, and maybe getting, they're the, sort of the genesis of this movement right now, so I would probably reach out to them first, and get more information on what their plans are.
But the select board hasn't really taken any action on it like they have on the fire station.
Not at all, we haven't even discussed the building yet. We're
Okay.
trying to do one building at a time,
Okay.
because there's a lot. The next building that we will be looking at is the old highway garage. That's gonna be discussed on the 27th of January. And after that, my understanding is they wanna have discussions about, and this is not to get rid of either, just discussions about the facility study. They're doing one building at a time, so they're talking about the old highway garage, and then they wanna talk about the recommendations for 1870, and for Bullard as well. So obviously you'll be involved in that conversation, but those are kind of their next buildings that are in the queue right now. So Legion Hall is not queued up yet either.
Okay.
Who's the chair of capital planning?
Anna Crane. But yes, I agree with you 100%. Better to start having the conversation than to come in on the back end and go, whoa, what's going on here, so.
Because needless to say, with the demolition delay thing,
Mhm.
we could be a real fly in their ointment.
Oh, for
And-
sure.
And it's terrible if we end up in a big political mess
Mm.
over it, you know. So,
Okay,
thank you.
so we're all set?
Move to adjourn.
Okay.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimously approved at 12 o'clock.
12:02.